Hi, it's Amy Karanik. I'm at the Polyform Design Center, and I want to show you a technique for making a fossil bracelet. This bracelet was made using original white Sculpey and just some herbs and flora from the garden, and also some dye ink pads that are waterproof and permanent. So let's get started. I have in front of me a piece of original white Sculpey pressed through the pasta machine on the thickest setting and then doubled. So this piece is double thick, this one is single thick. It's about 1 inch wide and about 8 or 9 inches long. Now, the first thing you want to do is you want to make a channel in this thicker base piece. My friend Cindy Holt showed me this technique for stringing bracelets, and I think it is absolutely ingenious. I'm using the medium-sized etch and pearl tool, and I'm dragging a channel through the clay. Okay, I'm probably just going down as thick as one layer. Remember I said this was a double thick layer, so I think I'm going about as deep as one layer, so not more than 1/8 of an inch. And I'm sure that would be plenty if you're using some sort of stretch string. Make sure these are really clean and open all the way across, and there's your channel. That's going to come in real handy later for stringing. Now take the single thickness piece and gently lay it on top of the channels, and just gently help the two pieces make contact with some finger pressure. Don't push hard enough to make it squash your channels, but just make them come into contact with each other. Now I'm going to take some pieces that I took out of the garden and start embossing some fossil-like images in my clay. I like to have one piece possibly go from end to end to create a running pattern across all the tiles, and push these in real well using finger pressure. Then pull them up, and this is a real interesting area right here, so I want to get that in the clay. Very interesting, but still very natural. Pull that up. This is kind of a neat little curly Q here. And I think this would be a great project for people who are really into gardening and have certain herbs or flowers that they really treasure, things that they really enjoy planting and harvesting. So this would make kind of a nice keepsake. I've also heard of people doing something similar to this with bits of their wedding bouquets, saving pieces from a wedding, or maybe flowers that you've gotten for a special occasion or an anniversary or a birthday, just to commemorate that time of life. And you can see sometimes stuff gets stuck in there. Just go ahead and pull it back out. This little thing makes such an interesting shape in the clay. And then this is a piece of mint, and I've tried to choose things that really have a nice vein structure and that you can really see the veins well in. And I'm pushing this one pretty hard. It's important too to pick out foliage that is kind of the right size for your project. You could easily translate this project into something larger, and you could use much larger leaves. But for a bracelet, certainly this is a very small project, so I've tried to pick out leaves that are small enough to be proportionate to the project. I'm even going to use like the tip of this stick in here a bit. Okay, so I've got like a nice pattern on there that I'm happy with. Got one little seed there. And it's time to start highlighting this with some ink. I'm using the Ancient Page waterproof dye ink pad, and I'm using a very light color at first. This is lime, and this is the lightest of my 3 colors that I've chosen. And I'm just going to daub this over the surface of my bracelet beads. They're not beads yet, but they will be. And I like the way it looks uneven and sort of blotchy, kind of more like a watercolor painting. Next, I'm going to go with some jade, and I'm not going to put this everywhere, just a little more random so that that background color shows through. And then my darkest color is a leaf green, and I'm going to apply this with my finger because I don't want a lot of this, and I'm even going to put it on there and then rub out my fingerprints. So just the color shows. And it kind of smears it into the other colors. Like I said earlier, kind of like a watercolor. Has a very natural and organic flow to it, this project does. Next we're going to cut this into bead shapes. And I want to trim off my excess clay. I'm going to make some little bead tiles. So trim top and bottom to give a nice finished edge. Discard all that extra. I'm going to cut a nice straight edge down here. Now I'm kind of sawing through because remember we've got those channels in there that we don't want to smash. You got to keep those channels open for stringing the beads later. So decide about how wide you want your tiles to be and then go as gently as you can. And here again I'm kind of sawing so that I don't smash those channels, and cut this up into as many beads as you need. A standard bracelet for a woman starts at about 7 inches. I like mine a little loose, so I usually go 7.5 or 8. And these will be strung later with some complementary beads in between. So when you're making a bracelet, you want to take the dimension of your wrist and add a little bit for fit, and then you want to measure how many tiles you'll need to fit that dimension, plus how much space you'll need, say if you wanted to spread them apart and add spacer beads in between. Okay, now these are almost ready to bake. Right before you bake them, I think it would be a good idea just to go very gently into those channels and make sure that they are open still. And this is a good practice because you don't want to have these baked and then have the channel be closed. Once you're ready to bake those, you want to bake them for about 30 minutes at 275. And then when they're completely done, I like to put the Sculpey Gloss Glaze on top. Now, my method for applying the Sculpey Gloss Glaze is to use my finger. This is permanent dye ink, but for some reason, even after it's baked, if you put a wet product on top of it, you can sort of mudge up the ink colors and make them run down into the crevices with a paintbrush. So I found that if I apply it with my finger and just put it right on the top, that all the colors stay right where I put them. And it makes a nice, makes all the colors pop and shine and gives a little more depth to the piece. So that's a Fossil Bracelet 101. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.